The NFL preseason is almost over, and with it, the regular season is about to begin. Let's go over 8 players you should be drafting who are flying up boards because of training camp hype. These are guys that need to be drafting earlier than the ADP. They're going to easily outperform their average draft position, and you'll be glad you drafted them on draft day. I expect to see at least one league winner out of this group. Again, we're going over 8 players. It's a pretty large sample size, but I expect at least a couple of them to finish inside the top 20 within their positions. Let's go to our first player. That's Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. It's hard to ignore the fact that the Titans spent the first overall pick on Cam Ward, quarterback out of Miami, who has a rocket arm, and he showed it so far this NFL preseason. I believe Ward has the talent to be at least a decent quarterback in year one. Obviously, quarterbacks take a long time to develop, but if the deep passing in the preseason has been any indication of future success, obviously I know it's preseason, doesn't matter as much as the regular season, but Cam Ward obviously is not afraid to fire the ball downfield. That's going to really benefit a guy like Calvin Ridley, who even with Will Levis, a quarterback last year, put up over 1,000 receiving yards. That's extremely impressive. Reports coming out that through camp, these two have looked like a really strong connection that could carry over easily into the fantasy season, making Ridley a top 20 wide receiver. According to Fantasy Pros, he's being drafted as the wide receiver 29 right now. I think that's far too low for a guy that's easily the wide receiver 1 in this offense. And if you look back historically at Ridley's career stats, in 3 of the 4 seasons that he's played 15 plus games, he's had over 1,000 receiving yards. If that trend continues this year, expect him to finish well above his ADP of wide receiver 29. He's also continued his habit of getting into the end zone. 12 receiving touchdowns over the last 2 years is a really solid floor. Obviously, Cam Ward is going to struggle out of the gate, but I expect Calvin Ridley to benefit greatly by his presence. And again, it's not like you're spending a high draft pick on Ridley. There are plenty of wide receivers going above him in drafts, with murky quarterback situations as well. I mean, you think of a guy like Drake London, who I love this year for fantasy. Michael Penix Jr. is still an unproven quarterback in Atlanta. That's why I believe the risk is pretty low with Calvin Ridley, especially at that slot where he's going. And the Titans didn't draft a receiver until the 4th round of the NFL draft this year, meaning that they trust Ridley to be their top receiver wholeheartedly. I expect him to continue to be the alpha of this offense and greatly outperform his draft position, with Cam Ward under center pushing the ball downfield like he did in college. Ridley is still a very talented wide receiver, and when he's on the field, he's going to put up top 20 numbers this year. Next up, we have Trey Benson, running back for the Arizona Cardinals, who's being drafted as the RB51 this season. Being outside the top 50 running backs in ADP, he presents zero risk. He's basically a late round flyer at this point. You can take him in the last round, maybe even the last pick of your fantasy draft. But the ceiling for him is extremely high compared to where he's being drafted. Even James Conner, the Cardinals' lead running back, said that he believes that there can be 2 RB1s in this offense. While I do like Conner in fantasy, I expect the reps to be a bit more split this year towards Benson. It's easy to forget how good of a prospect Trey Benson was coming out of Florida State. They selected him in the early 3rd round of the 2024 NFL draft. That's a pretty solid investment for a running back. I do believe they view him as the running back of the future. He showed some flashes his rookie year, but obviously was sitting behind James Conner most of the time. And as far as James Conner's 2-year extension goes, they signed this past offseason. The dead cap hit lowers significantly after the first year of the extension, so there's a chance that Conner gets cut after the 2025 NFL season just because of financial reasons. That means the Cardinals will want to get Benson more involved this year, getting him prepared to take over that RB1 role in 2026. So I don't think he's going to finish as a top 15 running back this year or anything, but I think he will be more involved this season and potentially be a top 30 option some weeks. And at the very least, he's a very solid player to put on the end of your bench who definitely has a high ceiling compared to his rookie year last season. The Cardinals ran the ball very well last season with James Conner, who was also very involved in the receiving game. If Benson takes a portion of his volume, I expect him to perform well. I expect him to earn more touches. And that's exactly what you're looking for at the end of your draft. A young player who can earn more volume as the season goes on, take some volume away from a veteran, and hopefully make an impact in fantasy. Maybe be a flex start for a couple weeks this season. So I think Benson's the perfect late round target. At the very least, he's a handcuff. But I would be shocked if the Cardinals don't at least try to get him more involved, get him more touches this season, because again, he was an early 3rd round pick. Next up, we have Ollie Gordon II, running back for the Miami Dolphins. He's being drafted, according to Fantasy Pros, as the running back 73 this season. So again, a similar boat to Benson. He is an end-of-draft, late-round flyer pick. First off, it's worth mentioning that starting running back De'Von Achane is currently sidelined with a calf injury. That may hold him out of week 1, maybe even longer. We don't exactly know yet. If he does, I expect Ollie Gordon to be the starting running back in his stead. But nonetheless, moving on to what Gordon's role could be with Achane in the offense, I think he finishes the season as Miami's RB2. The playstyles for Achane and Gordon are very different, making them complementary. Miami desperately needs a goal line back. Gordon is going to fit that role perfectly. De'Von Achane is only 192 pounds. And Achane, on carries inside the 10-yard line, averaged 0.8 yards per carry. Inside the 5-yard line, averaged 0.3 yards per carry. So that's definitely not his area of expertise on the field. Obviously, he's a very talented running back, but on the 1, 2, and 3-yard line, you're going to want a guy like Ollie Gordon, who's nearly 230 pounds, to run it in the end zone. Gordon is 225 pounds and scored 36 rushing touchdowns over his 3-year career at Oklahoma State. All things considered, he had a pretty disastrous year in his final year there. He dropped from 1,732 rushing yards all the way down to 880 from 2023 to 2024. His efficiency also dropped from 6.1 yards per carry all the way down to 4.6. A lot of that can be attributed to bad offensive line play, but some of it falls on Gordon's shoulders as well. That's why he fell all the way to the 6th round of the 2025 NFL Draft. But flash forward to this year's preseason, he has looked very dynamic, inviting contact. He's been a very physical runner while also breaking tackles really frequently. Also for his size, he's very, very good at making defenders miss, and I have no doubt he will be Miami's running back too by the end of the preseason. He's just too valuable on that goal line. Again, as a big running back, he can push the pile when the Dolphins are inside the 5-yard line. The last time head coach Mike McDaniel's offense featured a 2-back system with a heavier running back, it was in 2023 with Raheem Mostert, who's 212 pounds. During that season, inside the 5-yard line, he had 20 carries, which was second in the NFL, for 12 rushing touchdowns, which was tied for first in the NFL. He got a ton of volume inside the 5-yard line, which resulted in about 1 million rushing touchdowns. I know it's a long shot, but that could be Gordon's role this year. Mike McDaniel has showed that when he has a heavier running back he can put at the goal line, he uses him. Am I saying that Ollie Gordon is as good as Mostert or HN right now? No, it's not. I'm saying I don't think he's going to take over the backfield or anything, but he can at least earn a role in his inaugural season. Overall, I think he's a player who's worth drafting in the last round of your fantasy drafts, but also try to buy him in dynasty leagues as well. And we could see him earn that role as the goal line back very, very quickly. He may have already got it locked down, but he's a perfect late round flyer in 2025. Moving on, we have Emeka Egbuka, rookie wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Our second rookie on the list, former Ohio State wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, is a very high floor prospect who I think will have a very good rookie year in terms of production. His main role at Ohio State was as a slot receiver. He's a very good route runner. He's athletic. He was a very reliable player for Ohio State in the clutch last season. I expect him to take over a similar role with Tampa Bay. Like I said before, he's a very high floor prospect. He's a very well-rounded receiver. He does a lot of things very well, and I think that's going to translate perfectly to Tampa Bay's offense as he lines up next to Mike Evans in that slot position like we said. Fellow Buccaneers wide receiver Chris Godwin, who dislocated his ankle last season in Week 7 against the Ravens, isn't expected to be back until at least October this season. Egbuka, who is already rising on my draft board, is a player I'm looking to target even more now, as he will open the season as Tampa Bay's wide receiver too, especially with Jalen McMillan out for a good portion of the season as well. He was one of the most pro-ready receivers in the draft, multiple seasons of production at Ohio State. He was a very consistent player, always getting open, always getting yards after the catch. And he's walking into a very high-volume passing offense with Baker Mayfield, who had a career year last season. Mayfield threw for 4,500 passing yards and 41 passing touchdowns. Those are some really impressive numbers, and a lot of that could go to Egbuka this season. And he's a player I'm trying to target in every single fantasy draft that I can. According to Fantasy Pros, he's going as the wide receiver 45 at the moment. I think he's going to outperform that ADP on a very large scale. I wouldn't be shocked to see him finish as top 20 wide receiver by the year's end. And if he's available in those middle rounds, do not be afraid to overdraft him. He's a talented, pro-ready rookie wide receiver heading into a high-volume passing offense with a great quarterback at the helm and an awesome offense around him. Moving on, we have another rookie wide receiver, Tetairoa McMillan, who was the 8th overall pick for the Carolina Panthers this year. He was a very polarizing prospect, but I think he was one of the best players in the draft with his blend of size and athleticism. I mean, he's 6'5", 212 pounds, but has some serious yards after the catch ability. We saw that Arizona, he was constantly breaking tackles and breaking off huge gains, gashing open the defense. It's my expectation that he starts the season as the Carolina Panthers wide receiver 1. Bryce Young showed a lot of improvement last year, and if it continues into this season with his ascending offense, I think he gets a lot of volume early on. And all the reports coming out of Carolina's training camp is that Young and McMillan have a very strong connection so far, and I expect it to carry over into the regular season. He's flashed as a deep threat in the preseason, albeit with limited production, but he's looked very good so far. I don't think he'll have any trouble beating out players like Jalen Cook or Xavier Legette and Adam Thielen for that wide receiver 1 spot. He's well worth his ADP. And he's being drafted right inside the top 30 at his position as the wide receiver 28, according to Fantasy Pros. Just like Calvin Ridley, who's being drafted as the wide receiver 29, there is no risk attached to this. He's just a middle round selection who could provide a ton of value as a weekly flex play if things break the right way. Just like Egbuka, I'm willing to target him in every single draft. Next up, we have Tyler Warren, rookie tight end for the Indianapolis Colts. I'll be honest, I don't agree with the team's decision to bench Anthony Richardson. I think he needs more reps. But if Daniel Jones is going to be the starting quarterback, this is a pretty solid outcome for Warren. Daniel Jones was the low-risk option out of the 2 quarterbacks. I think it makes a lot of the Colts receivers' fantasy outlooks a lot safer. I considered Tyler Warren an elite prospect and my tight end 1 in this year's draft. He's so versatile, so good after the catch, and so good at breaking tackles. He is just an all-around great weapon. He's really good in contested catch scenarios. I expect that to translate seamlessly to the NFL level. And he's just a ridiculous athlete. He can do so much with the ball in his hands. Through 2 preseason games, he has 4 receptions for 65 receiving yards. And he's shown every bit of that receiving ability, winning on routes constantly and getting open. In his final year at Penn State, he had 104 receptions, 1,233 receiving yards, and 8 touchdowns. But he also had 26 rushing attempts for 218 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. That shows a ton of versatility, and I think head coach Shane Steichen is very excited to use him in this offense in a similar role. I think he has the ceiling to finish as a top 5 tight end in fantasy. That's why he's going as a tight end 10 at the moment. I think he's only going to continue to rise up draft boards as he plays well in preseason and positive reports continue to come out of camp. And personally, I've already drafted him as the starting tight end of one of my fantasy teams, so I do believe in him. I have some skin in the game as well. And he does have the ceiling to be a high volume target in year 1 with the Colts. Next we have Josh Downs, wide receiver for the Colts. He's going right now as the wide receiver 49 according to Fantasy Pros. Like Tyler Warren, I think Downs is going to benefit from a more safe passing game with Jones under center. While I think starting Richardson was the right decision, I think Jones is kind of the safer short-term option, so he is going to benefit these receivers this season. Downs has proven to be Indy's most reliable veteran wide receiver when he's healthy and on the field. He's also a high-volume target, 107 targets in 14 games, and again, I expect him to have safer, more reliable production with Jones under center this season. He's such a good route runner and has a knack for making some really acrobatic catches, and at the wide receiver 49, he presents basically no risk at his ADP. In my opinion, he's the best wide receiver on the Indianapolis Colts. His floor is as their wide receiver 2 this season. I think he can take over for Pittman as their wide receiver 1. Finally, we have Colston Loveland, rookie tight end for the Chicago Bears, going as a tight end 12. He's gotten plenty of targets so far with the Bears' first team offense this preseason. He was also the first tight end selected in this year's draft for the 10th overall pick. And I think Ben Johnson, the Bears' new head coach, loves his upside as a receiver, as a route runner, as a threat in this passing game. And I think he's going to get a ton of targets year 1 as Caleb Williams is top tight end. At Michigan in his final year of college football with a horrible quarterback room throwing him the football, he still put 56 receptions for 582 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns. If Caleb Williams and the rest of this offense can improve after a shaky 2024 season, Loveland can get a ton of volume right off the bat. And any tight end drafted outside the top 8 or 9 is basically a low-risk option. You're taking him in the late rounds. And I think Loveland and also Tyler Warren, both those rookie tight ends, have a higher ceiling than a lot of the players going around them. He's such a good prospect with a ton of receiving upside. Like I said, he's a fantastic route runner. He runs like a receiver out there. And I think both these rookie tight ends, Warren and Loveland, will make big impacts their rookie years in fantasy. The honorable mention of this list is Marvin Mims Jr. I think he's going to be the wide receiver 2, maybe even the 1 for the Denver Broncos this year. Again, going at the very end, the tail end of those fantasy drafts. If you want to take a chance on him with your last pick, I say go ahead and do it. He really emerged during the back half of the 2024 season as a deep threat for Bo Nix in this offense. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment what you thought of my takes. Subscribe if you're looking for more content like this all fantasy season. I'm Joe, and this is Fantasy Trading Room.